Today on Wiki Bros, we discuss whether sending innocent individuals to prison can actually turn them into criminals. Welcome to Wiki Bros. I'm Justin.
This is Kyle.
And this is the show with a couple of guys exploring various Wikipedia articles.
On the last episode, we discussed Fred Zane and the impact of his corruption and false testimonies on innocent individuals, and then following the exonerations after their convictions. This week, we have two new individuals who have both been exonerated of their crimes. The first being Richard Alexander, the second being Christopher Abernathy. So just to follow up, Justin, at the beginning of the episode today, you made the comment about the effect prison time had on individuals and whether or not it would create criminals of them after their time served. What's your opinion on that?
So I think it kind of depends on basically how long they have been in prison and what kind of life they have once they've been released as far as money goes. If they've gotten a settlement, how quickly that settlement has come to them, or if they just don't have anything waiting for them when they get out, like their whole life's changed, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think, a lot of these, especially with the exonerations, the settlements have a big impact. But even with that, it's more the support that they have when they get out of prison. So even in these cases where you're getting these individuals who are receiving these settlements, that can take a year or two to, with the court time in itself. So if they don't have any type of support system getting out, and a lot of that's going to be dictated by how long they were in jail for. Somebody serves 1 or 2 years in jail, I'm sure they've still got support coming out if they had it going in. Somebody serving 30 years for a potential murder charge might have lost their kids, their wife, their family could have disowned them.
Right.
You don't know what kind of situation they're stepping into. And then, like we've discussed in a previous episode, does the type of prison that they're in,
right,
and the nature of the prison, cause them to lean that way? Does it become a Stockholm syndrome kind of situation as well, as far as them leaning towards the criminal life?
So Richard Alexander, he's one of these that has turned to a life of crime after being exonerated.
Okay.
So he's arrested in connection with 4 sexual assaults that took place in 96 in South Bend, Indiana.
So these were his original convictions?
Yeah. Well, he's arrested for them.
Okay.
He's eventually, though, he's only tried for 3.
Okay.
Okay. And convicted on 2 of them. After mitochondrial DNA testing performed in 2001 excluded him as the assailant in one of the incidents, he was exonerated of both crimes and released from prison. So basically what's going on here is during this time around the summer of 96, South Bend has seen a large amount of rapes, okay? And so it's like a serial rapist type of deal that they're thinking.
Right.
Well, he's arrested and the assaults in South Bend area continue.
Pretty good indication that they didn't catch the right guy.
Right. So in one case that occurred after Alexander's imprisonment, they messed up a little bit. So when they were showing a photo lineup to people, they accidentally put his photo in there, right? And the victim identified him as the perpetrator.
Man, does somebody have it out for him?
Like, he's in prison. He could not have committed this crime.
Right.
But, so... and there's another.
Did he match he must have matched a description they were looking for?
I don't know. I mean, it's eyewitness, testimonies that we have here, where you're relying on your memory from, what is potentially devastating, event that happened to you, and you're trying to rely on your memory.
Was this a person who was raped stating that they thumbed him as the perpetrator, or was this just a witness to the crime?
No. This was a victim. Okay. And then,
that's pretty telling in itself that somebody who is, went through something that traumatic can't even remember,
right. Well,
the perpetrator.
Right. So we said he's charged in 4 separate incidences.
Right.
He goes to trial for 3 of them. biological evidence recovered in the fourth case, was subjected to the DNA testing that cleared him, right? Despite the fact that both the victim in the case and her fiance had identified him as the perpetrator, and they're certain of their identifications. Like, so
How was the fiance
well,
involved?
I don't have the exact details on that, but I'm assuming like he was probably tied up during this, and so he saw him, or maybe he
Okay.
was knocked out, or whatever the case was before the fiance was.
He must have just looked similar to the actual individual for them to have for two people to have that much certainty that he
Yeah,
was the individual.
yeah. Well, yeah. So it's actually three people now.
Oh wow.
So anyway,
And
he's
hold on. So
yeah.
was this all hinging off of them seeing him in this book, in the lineup book?
Yes, that for sure. The first one, I'm not really positive on the second one.
Okay.
Um, but he's charged with 2 counts of robbery, 2 counts of criminal deviant conduct, 2 counts of attempted rape, 2 counts of confinement, attempted robbery, rape, burglary, and auto theft. All right, so they've got him nailed down here. At trial, one of the victims positively identified him as her assailant, but described the perpetrator's chest as free of tattoos and not hairy, which is the exact opposite of Alexander's chest, right? Jury ends up acquitting him in that case. He's convicted of the remaining 2 crimes and sentenced to 70 years in prison.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But in 2001, a man named Michael Murphy confessed to committing one of the crimes for which Alexander was convicted. And he's given details about this crime that only the, true perpetrator would actually know.
Right.
And following the confession, hairs found at the scene of the crime were submitted to a lab for mitochondrial DNA testing, which, that wasn't available in Indiana at the time of Alexander's conviction. And it comes back that these are the hairs of this guy who just confessed, right? So
that's interesting to hear that Indiana didn't have DNA testing because
the mitochondrial DNA anyway.
okay, so just that specific form of DNA testing.
But he's cleared of the second attack for which he's convicted. Circumstances of this attack were eerily similar to those of the fourth assault, the one that Alexander was cleared by DNA testing, and before the trial ever started.
Right.
So he was basically a man named Mark Williams. He'd been convicted of the attack, but the circumstances of the attack for which Williams was convicted were so similar to the second assault for which Alexander was convicted that authorities originally thought the 2 must have been committed by the same person. So there's no biological evidence existed in Alexander's second case. Other factors led the district attorney's office to conclude in 2001 that Williams was the real culprit in both cases. Alexander's appellate attorney and the prosecuting attorney filed a joint motion to have his convictions vacated, and the court granted that motion on December 12th, 2001. He's officially cleared of all charges and released after serving more than 5 years in prison. The district attorney said he would not re-prosecute Alexander for the crimes. Let's hope not. Alexander, though, files a federal wrongful conviction lawsuit against the city of South Bend, but the case was dismissed. He subsequently files a claim for compensation from the state of Indiana. And, in 2022, he's awarded $189,000. But he's in prison.
Already.
Yep.
So when did he get out of jail?
So basically, it was 2001 is
Okay.
when he's exonerated, right?
And he served 5 years. Oh no, he served 5 years.
Yeah, he's roughly 5 years in prison.
So hold on. The lawsuit said it was 2022 when he actually got money.
Yes.
So he waited almost 20 years to get paid.
Yep.
But then didn't get paid anyway.
And then didn't get paid because Indiana has a rule, that says, hey, we'll pay out, but we're not paying out if you're incarcerated.
When did he file his lawsuit?
I have no idea.
I mean, that would be my first question is if you got out 2001 and what did he wait until
Yeah,
2020 to file the lawsuit all of a sudden? Like,
I
I can't imagine that a lawsuit like that going on
well,
for 20
okay, so
years.
I can tell you this. The on June 4th of 2002 is when he filed a federal suit against the city of South Bend.
So it was pretty
20
close
years.
together.
20 years is how long, right?
Sorry, check that date again. What was the South Bend lawsuit?
June 4th, 2002.
Okay.
And it's 2022 before he's going to get paid out, but he's not getting paid out.
I thought South Bend dismissed this case.
No. No. South Bend is. Oh, yeah. You're right.
Because he filed the
South
second one
Bend
against
was,
Indiana.
Yeah, it was Indiana that was paying out. You're right.
I'm curious how South Bend got out just dismissing the lawsuit
Yeah, I
altogether.
don't know. I don't really have any idea on that. But it said, let's see, it says that they expected to ask for about $55 million in damages, $10 million for every year in prison, right?
It's a little excessive, but
Well, it is what it is. But
well,
they
I mean,
didn't.
I'm just saying in accordance with
No.
for the last episode,
Sure.
some of those individuals, there was a group of them only got like 6.5 million for serving time, and he only served 5 years.
Right.
I mean, I definitely think that for wrongful convictions, you should get it. And we discussed this on the last episode. There should be set amounts per year you get.
Yes.
There should not be like extenuate. Okay, well, you have to prove like how much pain and such. No, it should be okay. It's $1 million a year. You serve 5 years. Here's $5 million.
Right.
Done. Like this shouldn't be an argument. There shouldn't be
and you shouldn't. In my opinion, you shouldn't even have to. This shouldn't be something you have to go back and try and fight for.
No.
It should just be like, hey, as you're released, here's a check for $5 million.
Well, and just like we discussed, this is an instance where this guy tried to file a lawsuit immediately, got no money. Now he's went 20 years with no financial support. You don't know what his family support system was when he got out of jail. So now he's got this on his record, even if it was exonerated, like it does affect your job. I don't care what they say. It definitely does affect you getting jobs. And he's like we discussed, he's now going to turn to a life of crime.
Yeah. So basically, 2007, he pled guilty to 1 count of battery for having beaten a former girlfriend with a lead pipe in 2005.
Oh, wow. He got
yeah, you fucking asshole. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he should definitely be serving
for
that one.
You beat her with a lead pipe?
Wow, a lead pipe.
Jesus Christ.
But he goes one further than that, correct?
So part of his plea bargain, though, a second count of battery was dismissed. So
really?
He's done it more than once. On June 14th of 2007, Alexander was sentenced to 8 years in prison with 2 years suspended. Okay. And so then it looks like he's gone through his prison sentence. He's gotten out. And now September 17th of 2020, he was charged in the stabbing death of his ex-girlfriend following a pattern of domestic violence.
Was it the same one he beat?
I don't know. I tried finding that out. I couldn't figure it out if it was the same one or not.
Man, if it wasn't the first girl with the lead pipe really dodged a bullet.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, so this is a little different to me based on whether or not it causes criminal activity if you serve jail time, okay?
Okay.
I could understand.
Like theft,
sure. Robbery, armed robbery, even stealing cars, anything to that nature. But you're just murdering and abusing women at this point. I don't think that in this instance that was caused by jail time. Like, you were clearly a bad person, whether or not you did these initial crimes or not. You're not going to come out and just like randomly start beating women.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe you can claim from the abuse you received in prison, it changed your personality, but he was only 5 years is still a long time. But we've seen instances of people serving 30 years come out and not have this level of anger and aggression.
Yeah, well, but again, it's like we talked about how everybody deals with stuff differently.
That's true. That is true. But I mean, I can't imagine.
Not that it's right.
No,
because
I still can't rationalize going from that from women, and it doesn't make him look good considering his previous crimes that he was being accused of were rape, and now he's beating and murdering women. It really kind of does go in line with the fact that he was accused of this to begin with.
Yeah, so he ends up getting. So it's it's 30-year count for voluntary manslaughter, which was part of the plea deal that he made that
You get a
changed it
manslaughter
to
charge for murder.
manslaughter, right? But then 20 years for habitual offender offense
How
because,
many charges
well,
did he have at this point?
as far as I know, it's just the other ones for battery,
Okay.
right?
I'm curious how. So he served 5 years for an innocent case. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's convicted of 30 years. Do they take
Well,
into
now
a
50, really.
50, right?
Right.
Do they take into the account that he served 5 years
Ooh.
incorrectly into his sentencing?
I'm gonna say no.
Because this is a future case, right?
Yes.
I mean, you would think that like at some point in time, maybe that would come into effect, but like since they are
Right.
charges
Yeah.
after the fact, I wouldn't think they would,
No,
right?
I'm going to say absolutely not because they're also going to pay. Well, they're have the potential of paying him for, you know, sending him to prison wrongfully.
Which he didn't get a
Anyway,
dime anyway, because
yeah,
now he's
but it
serving
was
time.
it definitely is something that was in the works or should have happened. So they're not good. They're definitely not going to take that into effect.
This is a little. I don't know how I feel about them not paying them even after the fact because he did serve the incorrect time,
Right.
okay, and he has committed a terrible crime now,
Mhm.
but he could potentially use the money to at least appeal his case in court. But now he won't even get that
Yep.
at this point. Now, don't get me. I don't feel bad for this guy
No,
whatsoever at all. I'm just looking at it from a
I
completely
get it.
legality perspective. I mean,
He should be paid regardless of the fact.
yes,
Or
because he did
right.
actually serve. He served false imprisonment time for something he didn't commit.
Yep. So I want to move on to this other guy, Christopher Abernathy.
Okay.
Okay, so October 3rd, 1984, 15-year-old Christina Hickey disappears while walking home from high school choir performance in Park Forest, Illinois. Her body was found 2 days later behind a shopping mall. She had been raped and stabbed. More than a year later, on November 30th of 1985, police brought in 18-year-old Christopher Abernathy for questioning after an acquaintance, Alan Dennis, told police that several months earlier, Abernathy had admitted killing Hickey. Abernathy had attended Hickey's funeral, but so did several hundred other teenagers, right?
Right. So I'm
But
assuming he was going to school with this girl.
yeah, I believe that's the case.
Was this like his senior year, and she was how old was she? 15.
She's 15. He's 18.
Okay.
Well, he was 17 actually at the time.
Okay, so he was in school with her.
Right. So anyway, it was heard, whatever.
Were
him
they
saying
were they
that-
dating or something?
No, nothing like that at all.
Okay.
No, nothing like that at all. That just coincidence, right?
Okay.
I'm sure it was, he went to her funeral, just like all the, other kids who went there. They would have just gone.
Right. Somebody dies in your school that you
right,
know.
yeah,
I'm sure he
sure.
knew the girl.
Yep. So anyway, police check him out, and they don't think anything about him. Okay.
Okay.
But after more than 40 hours of interrogation, he's all right. Let me go on to this. He's a high school dropout now.
Okay.
He was classified as learning disabled. Okay. And then now, after 40 hours of interrogation, he signs a confession saying he saw her walking home and wanted to have sex with her.
Wow.
When she refused, he attempted to rape her and then accidentally stabbed her with a pocket knife he had in his hand. But almost immediately after he does this, he recants his confession, right? Because the police told him that he could go home to his mother if he signed this.
It's oddly specific, though. I mean, either the
What do you-
cops were real. I mean, just the detail in it, saying that.
He saw her walking and he wanted to have sex with her.
Yeah, like that. I could see the cops getting him to say
Yeah.
that. Like that's it. I mean, these are teenagers, right? You can be like, "Oh, did you want to have sex with that
And-
girl?" Well, yeah. But then for him to go into detail about like how he stabbed her with this pocket knife, I mean, I don't. Maybe they, I could see where they could still even pressure them into that. Well, do you have a pocket knife? Well, do you think you would have stabbed her with your pocket
Right.
knife?
That is exactly. I would have never dreamed of anything like that actually happening. until I've started reading through some of these
Right,
exoneration
right.
cases. And I'm telling you, the damn corruption involved in this, it's like they, it,
I mean, let's be honest, okay? Every job, whether it's police, lawyer, judge, they all have their own motives, right? They all have their own reasoning for wanting answers and getting results.
so, and I think on like a lot of these with the officers here, I don't believe that a lot of it is intentional.
Right.
I think they have an idea of what happened.
Well, didn't somebody say that he admitted to this?
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Was
Some
that
other.
before or after the
Well,
interrogation?
this was before. This was right afterwards when that guy said that.
Okay, so the cops have heard this guy state that Abernathy said he murdered this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and then the cops have heard this, so they're going to drill this kid
Yes.
until they get him to admit to it because he may or may not have said this to this guy.
Yep.
Did the guy ever recant the fact that he said this to him?
Oh, he does later.
Okay.
But at this time, he goes to trial on this, and in January of '87, with the evidence against him being the testimony of this
Well, yeah.
guy, he is convicted. Okay, there was no forensic or physical evidence connecting, Abernathy to the crime.
Man, that's scary.
Presumptive tests were negative for the presence of semen. Okay, so this is all they really have is this dude's statement. Okay,
So she wasn't raped?
yeah, she was.
Oh, she was, but just no semen.
Yes,
Okay.
So on January 15th of 1987, a jury convicted Abernathy of first-degree murder, aggravated criminal sexual assault, and armed robbery. Because he was 17 at the time of the crime, he was not eligible for the death penalty, but he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Okay. Now, 20 years later,
So now he's 38.
journalism students at Northwestern University, they start looking into this case.
Okay.
And Dennis recanted his trial testimony.
Are you? Wow.
20 years later, Dennis said that Abernathy had not confessed, but that police pressured him to implicate Abernathy. He said,
Wow.
police promised to get him lenient treatment on some pending minor charges and gave him $300 to buy clothes to come to court. Benefits that were not disclosed to Abernathy's defense attorneys at the trial.
Man, before we discussed that, the cops didn't do this intentionally, but this is some straight corruption.
Yes.
Like, this is corruption.
So
You paid somebody to get clothes to come to court?
okay, well, all right. There's kind of two parts to this.
Okay.
So, first off, paying for the clothes to come to court, I can see that. This is your witness. You want to be presentable, okay?
Not the cops.
No, I know, but I can understand. I can
don't know.
I can understand that part.
That sounds, that's borderline bribery.
Well, you picture this.
I can
dude-
see if the lawyer's trying to do that to win the case, but the cops doing it, that shows some straight favoritism right there. Like, they are trying to nail this guy.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, but I'm saying
Because had this guy showed up in, I don't know what his cases were these drug related charges.
yes.
So you got some meth head showing up in a ripped t-shirt and jeans.
Wait. I think they're burglaries.
Okay.
They were burglaries. He was because he later says that he committed about 30 burglaries, but he was charged with 2 of them.
Okay.
So and he gets a 2-year sentence out of this.
So they gave him a light sentence to cooperate.
Yeah,
basically.
he said he believed that if he didn't say what the detectives told him to say,
Well,
he would be charged with more crimes.
I hate to say I agree, but given what they just did with this situation, I can say that's
but
very well
als-
possible.
But also, I don't necessarily believe what he's saying now.
Well, that is true. If he lied about the
they have no evidence. They looked into it. They have no evidence that he got any more of a lenient treatment because of this.
Okay.
So
did they verify that they bought him clothes?
I don't know about that, and they may have. I don't have any record of that, but I do have record that they could not find anything that where they said that they would give him or that his sentence was actually minimalized because of this.
I,
So,
I I'm gonna
but
I'm gonna make something clear in this kind of situation too. People who do this kind of stuff, like these false testimonies, false allegations, stuff,
yeah,
there should be
I think we talked about
legitimate
this.
penalties for this kind of bullshit. Like there should be, and I'll continue to say this going forward. Like people should not be able to say whatever they want and just get away with things, especially on the stand, and have no repercussions from it whatsoever. There should be criminal charges brought up on people who do this shit all the time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't care, what they were offered.
No,
So especially on something like that. Oh, you're wanting a lesser sentence. You know what I mean?
right?
Like,
Well,
get the fuck out of here. You committed a
yeah.
crime, and now you're.
Well, it's human nature, right? Like he doesn't want to go to jail.
I know,
They're
but
offering him to serve the least amount of time. It has no impact on his life if this guy goes to jail. So
yeah,
you,
but
you,
I don't
you
know.
can turn around and you can turn around and lie and destroy somebody else's life. It's not going to affect your own, right?
I know, but it just seems like it would have an effect on your conscience.
You would think. You would think.
So Northwestern students, they brought the results of their investigation to a law firm where attorney Lauren Caseberg, she begins preliminary work on the case. In 2013, Caseberg started working for the Illinois Innocence Project at the University of Illinois in Springfield. In 2014, Caseberg asked the Cook County State Attorney's Conviction Integrity Unit to examine the case. In 2014, pursuant to an agreement between the Innocence Project and the Conviction Integrity Unit, an order was entered to conduct DNA testing. 8 different items were tested, including a vaginal swab, clothing of the victim, and her purse. Abernathy's DNA was not found on any of the evidence, but a partial DNA profile of a different person was found on the 8 items tested. Profile wasn't, complete enough to submit to a DNA database.
Right.
But the prosecution did agree with the defense team that the testing excluded Abernathy as the perpetrator of the crime. So, on February 11th, 2015, the Conviction Integrity Unit requested that Abernathy's convictions be vacated. The motion was granted, and the charges were dismissed. So this is kind of neat. It sucks. No matter how you look at it, it sucks. But
Right.
It says Abernathy was released the same day and was greeted by his family, including his mother, who had visited Abernathy in prison nearly 1,000 times during the nearly 30 years he was incarcerated.
That's a good mom.
So, yeah, man, and on top of that being a good mom, he was released the same day. Man, it seems like a lot of these times they do this and then they're there's still like a holdup and they're in prison for another year or something. Like, ugh.
Which is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like the day you're cleared, you should be like at the courtroom. You should be going home.
Yep.
Like go back, get your stuff out of your cell, go home. Like there should not be any more time served
I
whatsoever.
don't know. It's kind of silly.
Well, some of that is
waiting.
If there's appeals and stuff. If the prosecutor tries to convict them for something else or lesser charge,
I've seen that where it says that they're released, like on probation,
right?
And then
But should there even be probation? Like you clearly got cleared of your charges. Like
Right.
why are you even serving probation at this point?
So in 2016, he filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against former Park Forest police officers Carl Kuster and Donald Myers, the Cook County State Attorney's Office, and Stephen Theodore, who owned a polygraph service. Okay.
Interesting. So they got him to do a polygraph, and he
So
failed
they
the polygraph?
did, but that was interesting to me because I was under the understanding that all the polygraphs were done by the state, or it was an. I didn't. They went to an outside polygraph service.
Well, even with that, the polygraphs, I thought, and maybe this is just something recent, that they didn't feel like they were admissible in court because they're not reliable.
Yeah.
So what would it even matter?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I really don't know.
Maybe during the time period that this happened, they were allowing
possibly.
that. I'd have to go back and check law, but
the lawsuit accused the officers of forcing Dennis to falsely state that Abernathy had committed the crime. The lawsuit also claimed that during the interrogation, the officers took Abernathy to Theodore's private polygraph business and that they conspired with Theodore to file a false report of what Abernathy
Oh,
said
wow.
during and after the exam. 2017, so not that many years later in this case. After obtaining a certificate of innocence, Abernathy was awarded $222,000 from the state of Illinois. In 2019, the village of Park Forest settled for $13.7 million.
Wow.
Cook
So almost
County,
14 million.
yeah, Cook County agrees to pay $300,000, and that Theodore dude agrees to pay $1,000.
Okay, explain this to me.
Mm-hmm.
They've all been caught.
Who's been caught?
The cops.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The lie detector
Well,
professional. No, because he conspired with him.
So they say that's what the lawsuit accuses.
Okay.
And then they end up awarding him this. That doesn't necessarily mean that they agree to everything that is
and maybe
in the
not.
lawsuit.
But shouldn't they at least bring these guys up on charges and at least try a case against them?
Or they should look into it for sure.
Yeah. Like, okay, maybe the cops are throwing this polygraph guy under the bus. Who knows? But the cops clearly had intentions here. I mean, given how many steps that they went through to try and get this guy convicted, that it should at least be reviewed to see if there's, should anything be done. And, I'm generally not a type of person that's, down on the cops.
Sure.
I have a lot of friends of mine that are, police officers, very respectable individuals, very nice guys. I trust all of them.
But you don't trust every cop that's out there, especially when the evidence shows that they're committing crimes.
No, I mean, these guys have a history here through this entire case of trying to falsify evidence, trying to force testimonies, false testimonies, bribing. If that it did in fact happen, I mean, it's pretty damning on them, and for them to have no repercussions on it,
it's kind of like what we talked about with Fred Zane.
Yeah.
I mean, prior to reading that, I mean, I would have never imagined somebody in his position would have done that. Like, what is that benefiting him?
Who
like,
knows? I think in his case, he was
tests and say that he didn't. It's just because he's ignorant and he didn't know how to do the test because he failed chemistry.
Pretty much.
I mean,
I think he was trying to hold his job, right? Like he obviously didn't know how to do his job to begin with, so he was just trying to cover his tracks. But
either way it goes, when you're screwing other people's lives over like that, you definitely, your actions should be taken into account.
I mean, especially with this amount of time. You took 20 years from this guy.
Well, it was
was it longer than that?
I thought it was 28 years. Let's see, it was convicted in 85, exonerated in 2015.
Oh my
28
God.
years.
That's crazy.
28 years.
That's crazy.
The dude was 18 years old. I mean, he went from being a kid to
you're almost 50.
Now he's half dead.
Well, I
mean, you know what I mean.
He's a high school dropout now. It was I mean, whether or not he finished it, and while he went back and got his degree when he was in school or whatever, or in prison, but what job is he going to get going forward? Luckily, in this situation, this guy has good family. His mom was there for him, his family was there for him, and you really feel for somebody like this because he was basically tricked into confessing a crime he didn't commit and served this amount of time. Like, man, you've like had your life taken away.
Yep.
Now, granted, I am happy to see that they gave him like a decent settlement. Like he is set for life, right? Like he's not going to have to. Hopefully, with $14 million, at least he doesn't have to worry about working.
Sure.
And
he's almost retirement age anyway. He's roughly 55 years old.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, he can,
because he would have to, that's the other thing is that they don't factor into that is had he been working the entire time, he could have been contributing to a retirement plan. And
oh yeah. Well, not only that, like just your wages. So, sure. I mean, even $50,000 a year, okay, over 30 years. I mean, my God, like you're already, the amount of money you're going to make in that time period. And like you stated, if you're paying into a 401k from the age of, I don't know, say 20
sure,
for 30 years on the compounding interest on that, like, man, you have no retirement either.
Right.
So the guy's not going to go out and find some, seven-figure salary getting out of jail to make up for this time. So I'm happy to see that in this case they actually did, present him with some. How long did his court case take?
Man, it didn't take long at all.
Well, this is why I bring this up because the last guy,
years
and that's why I found very odd about that on how long that strung out was that did he not file the damn lawsuit, until 2020?
Yeah, I mean, all I know is that in this case, the charges were dismissed against him in 2015.
Okay.
In 2017 is when he gets this guy files in 2016. 2017 he gets his first payment.
Okay.
And then 2019. So
I mean, even then,
3 years after he files,
okay,
then he gets the big payout.
But even then, just like we stated, okay, it took him 3 years for decent payment. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It still took him a year. If you had no family support, what are you going to do?
Yep.
And then if you do anything criminal activity in that entire time,
then
you get no payout,
paid.
even if you're awarded it, altogether. So it's like, man, like, what are you supposed to do? Be homeless for 2 years while your case is going on?
Yes.
It's pretty messed up. Everybody needs to be thankful for their family and their support systems they have because some of these people come out and they don't have them.
So I saw another one and it was kind of interesting. And we might get to it.
Okay.
But basically they were saying that, gosh, I don't want to mess this up, but if you were pardoned by the governor, you were granted X amount of dollars. Okay.
All right.
If you served your time and were released, you were given $200.
Okay.
If it's gone back and turns out that you were innocent the whole time and then you were released like that, you get nothing.
Well, once again, this goes to what we've discussed, that they should have set payouts for how many years you served. And you wouldn't be tying up the court systems with this bullshit.
Agree.
That these people wouldn't be waiting. It's okay. Here's your check as you go out the door. We messed up.
Yep. And start holding people that are screwing up accountable.
Oh yeah.
Now
you would see far less of this if people who made false accusations and people who
burn them at the stake
were well, maybe not that much, but if
that would take care of it, would it not?
Well, yeah.
As soon as you say something, that's inaccurate.
You just want to bring back Salem witch trials, don't you?
Just bam.
That's what it is. That's what you want to do.
I'm just saying.
But I'm stating, like, if there were greater penalties for this stuff, you would see less of this. A lot of these people who do this, whether it's false accusations, whether it's perjury, whether it is, falsifying information, it's court, police corruption. It's a slap on the wrist. Then maybe they get, at worst, they get suspended.
Well, at worst, they lose their job. But
I wouldn't say at worst, but they get suspended, generally lose their job.
They're generally not facing.
Yeah, you're not serving jail time. You're not paying fines directly, generally.
Yep. Yeah. How about that? Start taking that out of anybody who committed corruption like this, taking the money out of their 401k, draining that to pay these people off, and then maybe they'll start making better decisions about what they're doing.
Well, let's look at even Fred Zane's example. Okay. How many people did that man put in jail?
I mean, the potential was for 314 people.
Right. And look at the amount of time that these people served combined. Sure. Okay. And then the fact that it was proven that his evidence was being falsified and the fact that his testimonies were complete BS.
Right.
And then look at the tiny amount of charge that he got in his case. Now, I know he passed away prior to serving any time, but didn't he get charged with something?
No.
Wasn't it 5 years?
His was for something. It was a fraud thing. That was what he was.
So no penalty for the other part?
No, he hadn't even gone to trial for that.
Okay.
And he died.
Well, so it would have been interesting to see how much of an effect that would have had.
I think what we should to make us feel better about Fred Zane's situation, let's just pretend that he went through the court system and they said guilty, you get the death penalty, you die today, and then he's dead, and we won't call it liver cancer. We'll just make us feel better about it, because otherwise this motherfucker got off.
No, I don't even think the guy should get off that easy. Like, you've put people in jail and put them through these type of situations. This man should have served time.
I agree.
I agree with the death penalty in certain situations. But like for someone to do this, that would be the easy way out for me.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm sorry, you put so many people in jail wrongly,
Hmm.
and then you served no time for it. You had no penalty. And granted, you feel for the guy's family given the way he died with the cancer situation. But I would like to have seen how that would have played out because I really do think they need to set a precedent with stuff like this.
Yep, I agree. Hey, I think we will continue this on. Next week, we'll try and get a couple more examples.
Yeah. These
Uh,
these are really interesting to read through
man,
because to see the cases, the evidence, and in so many of these cases, it's either falsified evidence, it's police corruption, it's frightening.
there's DNA.
That now, yeah, the DNA is overturning a
Right,
lot of it.
right. Hey, by the way, I did get the website updated.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Yeah, about time.
2023 me.
Look
So
at you.
check out the website at wikirose.com. Visit our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe, follow, get notified, all that stuff. Do the same thing on TikTok and anywhere you get your podcasts. For Wiki Bros, I'm Justin,
This is Kyle.
and we'll see you soon.